Hey guys, tonight's story is about Paris. You know, croissants, wine, and of course, that giant iron thing sticking out of the skyline. The Eiffel Tower. A landmark so famous, it feels untouchable. But here's the fun part. In the 1920s, one man looked at it and thought, yeah, I could probably sell that. And then, because apparently once wasn't enough, he did it twice. This is the story of Victor Lustig, the smoothest con man you'll never want to share a bed with. Tonight, we're settling into one of those stories that feels like it should be a cartoon. But unfortunately, it was real life. You know, the Eiffel Tower. That tall iron thing in Paris that looks romantic from far away and slightly rustier up close. Millions climb it every year, take their selfies, and pretend they're in some Netflix rom-com. But did you know? Once upon a time, a man literally sold the Eiffel Tower. Not once, but twice. And the wild part is, he didn't even own it. Now, before you sit up in bed thinking this is about some medieval duke pawning a castle, calm down. This was the 1920s. Paris between the wars. Jazz, champagne, questionable fashion choices. A time when the city was buzzing with life, but also kind of broke. The Eiffel Tower, that beloved Parisian symbol, wasn't even that beloved back then. Built in 1889 for the World's Fair, it was supposed to be temporary. Many Parisians thought it was ugly, like a giant iron asparagus stabbing the sky. By the 1920s, it needed constant repainting and repairs, which made it the perfect target for a very particular kind of genius, the con man. Enter Victor Lustig. If history gave out Oscars for charm and audacity, Lustig would have a whole shelf of them. Born in Austria-Hungary, he grew up not particularly rich, but very clever. He was fluent in multiple languages, had the face of a polite banker, and the soul of a man who looked at a priceless monument and thought, yes, I could probably sell that. Victor didn't start small. Oh no. He spent his younger years scamming his way across Europe and America. He once invented something called the money box, a fake device that supposedly printed real currency if you fed it the right chemicals. It didn't, of course. But he was so smooth, so convincing, that businessmen bought it for absurd amounts of money. By the time they realized they'd been duped, Victor was long gone, probably sipping wine in a new city, charming someone else's wallet. So by 1925, Lustig was ready for a masterpiece. He read a newspaper article about the Eiffel Tower needing major repairs, how the government was struggling with the costs, and how some Parisians even thought it should be dismantled. That was enough for Victor's imagination. If people already thought the tower was a burden, why not? Sell it for scrap metal. And he did. With the elegance of a stage actor, Lustig forged government stationery, complete with impressive stamps and seals. He invited a group of scrap metal dealers to a fancy hotel in Paris. There, in a private room, he posed as a French government official, calm, polite, bureaucratic. He told them the government had decided, very discreetly of course, to sell the Eiffel Tower to the highest bidder for dismantling. It was all very hush-hush, very official sounding, very don't tell the public yet. And they believed him, because why wouldn't they? This was France in the 1920s. Governments did weird things all the time. The Eiffel Tower wasn't universally adored, and Lustig's fake documents looked legitimate. The dealers were so eager for the deal of a lifetime that they didn't stop to think, wait a minute, is this random guy really in charge of selling national landmarks? One of them bit hardest. A scrap dealer, desperate to make a name for himself. Lustig leaned in, whispered about bribes, hinted at connections. He played the role perfectly. Within days, he had cash in hand, pocketed from the sale of the Eiffel Tower. And then, of course, he vanished. Off to Austria, then to America. By the time the dealer realized he'd been conned, the shame was so great he didn't even go to the police. Imagine that. You got tricked into buying the Eiffel Tower, and you're too embarrassed to tell anyone. It was the perfect crime. But Victor Lustig wasn't finished. Because why settle for one Eiffel Tower sale when you can have two? A few months later, he returned to Paris, forged new documents, and ran the scam again. The exact same trick. And once again, he nearly pulled it off. This time, though, one of the dealers grew suspicious and went to the police. Lustig fled before they could catch him. And just like that, the man who sold the Eiffel Tower twice slipped away to greener, or rather, scammer pastures. Now, you'd think a story like this would end with him in a quiet retirement, sipping brandy and laughing about the good old days. But Lustig's life was as restless as his imagination. He sailed to America, where he mingled with mobsters, conned banks, and lived like a man who believed the world was one giant poker game. He even scammed none other than Al Capone. Yes, the Al Capone. And he got away with it because he was polite enough to give Capone's money back in a way that made Capone think he was honest. Which is irony at its finest. Eventually, though, the law caught up. In 1935, after years of scams, Lustig was arrested by the Secret Service in the US. His charges: counterfeiting. Apparently, you can sell the Eiffel Tower twice and get away with it. But once you start printing fake money, governments lose their sense of humor. He was sentenced to prison, where he spent the rest of his life. Victor Lustig died in 1947, but not before leaving behind one of the strangest legacies in conman history. He proved that confidence, paperwork, and a straight face can sell, well, anything. Even a tower that literally defines the Paris skyline. So the next time you see the Eiffel Tower glittering at night, remember, once upon a time, it was just a pile of iron that a very smooth-talking man managed to sell. Twice. Because why stop at once when you can double down?